He did everything right, paid the bills on time, never raised his voice, came home every night. No lies, no drama, no suspicious behavior. By every visible measure, Kevin was the kind of partner most people would describe as solid, reliable, good. She still left. And she didn't leave alone. What Kevin couldn't wrap his head around, what kept him up at 2 a.m. replaying every conversation, wasn't the betrayal itself. It was the fact that he genuinely had no idea anything was wrong, no warning signs he could point to, no obvious fractures, just a relationship that looked fine on the surface and was quietly rotting from the inside. And that right there is the conversation most relationship channels are too cautious to have. Welcome to Brutal Relationship, where we skip the comfortable lies and talk about the things that actually matter. Today's video is one of those. Not easy to hear, but necessary. Because the 4 patterns we're covering aren't obvious. They're not the textbook red flags. They're the subtle, slow-burning behaviors that men repeat, often with zero awareness, that chip away at something foundational. And once that foundation cracks quietly enough for long enough, the outcome stops being a surprise to everyone, except the person who created it. Pay close attention. Some of this is going to land differently than you expect. Pattern 1, you became the most predictable person in her life. Cast your mind back to the early days. There was something about you then. An energy, a sense of possibility. She didn't know exactly what you'd say next. She didn't know every corner of your personality yet. You were still revealing yourself in layers, and that process of discovery kept her genuinely engaged. Not because you were playing games, but because you were still becoming. And she got to witness that in real time. Now, fast forward, 2 years in, 3 years, 5. Ask yourself honestly, is there anything about you right now that she couldn't have predicted 2 years ago? Most men, if they sit with that question quietly, know the answer. And this isn't about manufacturing mystery or pretending to be someone you're not. This is about something much more real. Whether you've continued to grow as a person, or whether you quietly press pause on your own development the moment the relationship felt secure, comfort is one of the most quietly dangerous forces in any long-term relationship. Not because feeling comfortable with someone is bad, it isn't. But because comfort, when it's not balanced with continued growth, slides almost imperceptibly into stagnation. And stagnation is not attractive to anyone. It's not attractive in a career, it's not attractive in a friendship, and it's absolutely not attractive in a partner. Relationship researchers have consistently found that emotional disconnection, not physical attraction to someone else, is the primary gateway to infidelity. The physical part tends to follow, something that was already emotionally in motion. And that emotional drift almost always begins when one or both partners stop feeling like they're moving somewhere together. When you stop having new opinions, new interests, new fire for something. When the conversation every night covers the same ground as last Tuesday and the Tuesday before that. You stop being someone she's still curious about. And curiosity is oxygen for long-term attraction. Without it, things suffocate slowly. Now, ask yourself this. When was the last time you genuinely surprised her? Not a dinner reservation, a real surprise, a perspective she didn't see coming, a decision that reminded her you're still a full, layered person with an interior life, not just a comfortable habit she's gotten used to. What's the actual move here? Stop treating the relationship like an arrival point. The men who maintain deep attraction over years are not the ones who found the perfect person and then coasted. They're the ones who kept becoming someone worth being around. Pick something you've been putting off. Learn it, pursue it, develop it. Not as a performance for her, as an investment in who you are. That distinction matters more than most people realize. Pattern 2. You made yourself someone. She stopped confiding. In every relationship develops invisible architecture over time, not rules that anyone agreed to, patterns that formed quietly through repeated experience. what's safe to say, what gets dismissed, what gets heard, what gets minimized. Both people learn these rules without ever having a single conversation about them. And this is where a lot of men create a problem they never intended. Picture this. Caleb comes home and his partner Diane is clearly carrying something. She starts talking about a situation at work, a conflict that made her feel undermined, overlooked by someone she trusted. Caleb listens for maybe 45 seconds, then shifts into solution mode. Have you talked to your manager directly? Honestly, you should probably just start looking at other jobs. Diane goes quiet. Caleb checks his phone. As far as he's concerned, the conversation concluded productively. For Diane, a lesson just got reinforced. Coming to Caleb with something emotional means getting a fix she didn't ask for and feeling slightly more alone afterward than she did before. This plays out again when she mentions feeling distant from him. He gets defensive, arms up. I don't know what else you want. I'm here every day. She backs down. She's learned again that bringing her inner world to him costs more than it returns. Now enter someone else, a colleague, a person from her gym, someone who, when she talks, actually tracks what she's saying, asks a follow-up question, doesn't immediately move to action items, doesn't look like they're waiting for their turn to speak, just receives what she's sharing. That person becomes where her emotional weight lives. And once your partner's emotional life has relocated to someone outside the relationship, the situation is already serious, regardless of whether anything physical has happened yet. The painful part is that most men who fall into this pattern aren't doing it with bad intentions. A lot of guys were never taught that emotional presence is a skill, that sitting with someone in their feelings without solving or defending is actually doing something. It doesn't feel productive, so it doesn't feel like it counts. But to the person on the other side of that conversation, it counts enormously. What can you actually change? Watch your first 5 seconds. Before you respond to something emotionally loaded, notice what you do in that initial moment. Do you brace? Do you start building your counter-argument while she's still mid-sentence? Does she have to manage your reaction while she's already dealing with her own feelings? The repair here is less complicated than most people make it. The next time she brings something vulnerable to you, close whatever you're doing, not halfway, fully. Let her finish without filling the silence. Then ask one question that proves you are actually tracking, not, what do you need me to do? Something more like, where did that leave you feeling? Small shift. The impact over time is not small at all. Pattern 3. You stopped holding yourself to your own standard. Before you brace for this one, it's not what you're probably assuming. Give it a moment. Yes, physical upkeep matters in a relationship. That's real and worth acknowledging honestly. But the layer underneath it, the one that does far more damage when it slips, is something else entirely. It's about the standard you hold yourself to as a man, independent of whether anyone is watching. When you first got together, you had something going on. Direction, energy, a sense that you were building towards something. You had standards for yourself that you maintained without needing. External accountability. That version of you had forward momentum. And forward momentum reads as attractive in a way that's almost impossible to fake. Then comfort settled in. Ambitions got quietly shelved. The things you used to do for your own growth, working out, reading, developing a skill, pushing yourself professionally, started falling away one by one. Nothing dramatic, just a slow accumulation of small surrenders. And she noticed. Not necessarily in a way she could immediately name, but the man she felt that original pull toward, the one who took himself seriously, started to fade. Here's something that rarely gets said directly. When a man stops investing in himself, his partner doesn't just find him less attractive. She starts to lose respect in a way that feels almost involuntary to her. And respect is not a bonus feature in a long-term relationship. It's load-bearing. Once it starts to erode, almost everything else becomes harder to maintain. She may try to as signal this. Not always cleanly, sometimes it comes through as friction that seems out of proportion to the surface issue, a comment that stings a little more than it should have, frustration that seems to be about one thing but is really about something underneath. These aren't attacks. They're often a person watching someone they love slowly stop caring about themselves and not having a clean way to say it. The men who hold their partner's attraction over the long haul are not the ones who peaked physically at 27 and froze. They're the ones who stayed in motion, who kept standards for themselves that existed independent of their relationship status, who didn't need their partner to push them because they were already moving. Where do you go from here? Honest audit, not against some idealized version of yourself, against the version of you that she originally chose. Has the energy dropped? Has the drive stalled? Are you treating your own goals with the same seriousness you used to? Pick one area, just one, where you've been slipping. Commit to it for 30 days, not for her reaction, but because that's the standard you want to hold for yourself. How you show up for yourself is how you show up for everything. Pattern 4, the relationship. Became a logistics operation. This one quietly dismantles more relationships than any of the others. And it's the hardest to catch because, from the outside, everything still appears to be functioning perfectly. You're still living together, still talking every day. The bills are handled, the calendar is coordinated, the routines are locked in. No blow-ups, no cold wars, no obvious signs of trouble. By any administrative measure, the relationship is running smoothly, but somewhere along the way, it stopped being a relationship and became an arrangement. And the difference between those two things is everything. Nathan and Simone had been together for almost 5 years. The relationship wasn't bad. There just wasn't much left in it that felt like a relationship. Their daily conversations had compressed almost entirely into logistics. Who was picking up what? What needed to get done this weekend? Whether they'd seen the thing on Netflix everyone was talking about. Functional, efficient, completely hollow. Simone didn't set out to meet someone. But when a person from her running group started having actual conversations with her about what she was working through, about what she wanted her life to look like, about things that mattered below the surface, she realized something quietly devastating. She couldn't remember the last time Nathan had been curious about her. Not her schedule, her. What she was hoping for, what she was afraid of, what she was still figuring out. That gap, genuine curiosity about who a person is beneath the daily routine, is what separates a real partnership from two people sharing an address. And when it disappears from a relationship, it tends to surface somewhere else. This drift doesn't happen because people stop caring. It happens because life has extraordinary gravitational pull toward the practical. Work, obligations, screens, fatigue, they fill every available space unless you actively push back. And most people don't push back until they're already reading the damage. Pause on this for a second. When did you last ask your partner a question you actually didn't know the answer to? Not a calendar question, a real one. About something she's wrestling with internally, about something she's curious about, or afraid of, or hoping for. About who she's becoming, not just what she's doing. Most couples spend years together and never update their image of each other. They're still working from a version of the other person that was accurate 3 years ago, calcified by routine, never refreshed. What actually fixes this? Protect time that has no agenda except being present together. Not a big production, not a scheduled romance intervention, just a window, screens down, nothing to accomplish, where the only point is connection. Talk about something that isn't your shared to-do list. Be genuinely curious. Treat the person next to you like someone you're still in the process of knowing, because if the relationship is alive, you are. And be honest with yourself about the difference between being physically present and being actually available. She already knows the difference. You should too. Find what these 4 patterns are really telling you. Step back and look at all 4 of these together. None of them are violent. None of them are dramatic. There's no obvious villain, No single moment you can point to and say, that's where it all broke. That's exactly what makes them so dangerous. They're all quiet. They all masquerade as normalcy. And they all share a common root: complacency. The gradual, almost imperceptible decision to stop showing up fully, to your own growth, to emotional connection, to the version of yourself that was worth choosing, to the person you committed to. Kevin, from the beginning of this video, wasn't a bad man. He just stopped being an intentional one. And in the absence of intention, drift takes over. It always does. If you recognize yourself in any part of this video, that recognition isn't a verdict. It's information. And information is only useful if you do something with it. The men who build relationships that stay alive, not just technically intact, but genuinely alive, aren't superhuman. They're not perfect. They're just honest with themselves before it's too late to act on that honesty. They catch the drift before it becomes a chasm. They choose their partner on purpose, not just by default, not just because nobody's left yet. That choice is available to you right now. Drop a comment below. Tell me which one of these 4 hit the closest to home. No judgment down there, just real conversation. And if this is the kind of content someone in your life needs to hear, share it. Not to lecture anyone, just to give them a window they might not have had before. That's what this channel is built for. See you in the next one.